Coming up, new blue. Chelsea get their man, but can he keep them at the summit? PSG are aiming for the stars, but could it really be a Paris match for Neymar? And talking of summer shopping sprees...
I cannot say that I'm happy with our transfer window.
ESPN FC is next. Yes, welcome into the show. That exclusive chat with Jose Mourinho coming up a little bit later on. We'll try and explain what Sergio Aguero is doing with JJ Watt as well.
Could we not get him a medium? Could we not get him an extra large jersey?
I think it's called the paint-on jersey.
What was that?
We'll get into that. Alejandro Moreno, Stuart Robson, Stevie Nicol with me, Adrian Healy. We also have Julien Laurens joining us. The big news of the day, gents, let's start with that. Let's start with you, Stuart. You've been a big fan of Alvaro Morata's potential move to Chelsea. Well, it's become a reality today. Chelsea have their man, about £70 million.
I think it's good for Morata. I think it's good for Chelsea because he's a player that likes to play with his back to goal as well as making runs in behind. He can link up the play, and that's what Conte wants from a centre-forward. You know, they get a lot of balls into the front areas. They get players running off that front player, trying to link up, play little one-twos. Morata is an excellent player. When I saw him at Juventus, he was head and shoulders above many of the players that were playing in the league at that time, and I think he's going to be a wonderful signing for Chelsea.
Wasn't Chelsea's
you knew
first
I was
choice?
going to say that, didn't you?
Was he? Wasn't Chelsea's first choice? Is that fair to say?
I think that is fair to say. It felt like Lukaku was going to be their guy, and then he wasn't. However, in my opinion, I think they're getting a better player now out of Morata than that of Romelu Lukaku. A more complete player, a player that gives you more flexibility in the attack. He gives you the option to go out wide. He gives you the option to link up play. He can stretch the defenders. He can score goals. Now, the one thing that Lukaku doesn't have, or does have that Morata doesn't have, is the experience in the Premier League. Lukaku has scored a bunch of goals in the Premier League. We know that. Morata, we think that he can do it because whenever he gets an opportunity to play, he actually does score goals and has scored goals for both Juventus and Real Madrid. The numbers tell a story about Morata, and a lot of the goals that he's getting is not from a starting position. He comes off the bench and he makes a difference. Now he gets to be the guy. He hasn't had that role in the past. Can he carry a team now offensively? That's a big task.
And do those numbers that we just saw, Stevie, translate into a guarantee in the Premier League? Because Chelsea need a guarantee, don't they?
You can't guarantee, but with the ability he has, and I would have to say that I think this signing is the signing Conte would want or preferred. You know, you said that he wasn't first choice. He probably wasn't first choice with the transfer committee. That's what it looked like. I think he was Conte's first choice, and he absolutely fits in at Chelsea for me, no danger. You can't guarantee goals, but I'll tell you what, I'll be shocked if he doesn't score a bag of goals.
Would he have been a first choice for you? You love Morata. I know you love Morata. Yeah. I know you love Conte. If you had been Conte, would this guy have been your first choice?
Absolutely, because he didn't actually use him. Conte left Juventus just after he bought Morata. But it's the perfect fit because the way Conte likes to play, the front players like to play with their backs, or he likes these players to play with their backs. They roll balls into the front. Hazard comes off one side, Pedro comes off the other. And Morata can do that far better than Lukaku can. We know Lukaku's touch isn't particularly good. He's a player that likes to run in behind. For Chelsea, you need to be able to do both. And that's why I think he got fed up with Diego Costa, because his hold-up play wasn't as good in the second half of the season. And that's why he's gone for Morata. I think it's a good signing for both the player and the club.
Let's bring Julien Laurens into the conversation. Julien, what's your take? Is this the perfect solution for Chelsea?
Yeah, I think it is, and I agree with the boys. I think Morata is probably far more suited to the way Chelsea and Conte are going to play than Lukaku even. And if you look at it now, they've signed Rudiger, Bakayoko and Morata in the last 10 days or so. And suddenly, from a time where they were the only big club not having signed anyone, suddenly they have signed one player for each line and three amazing players, really, who are exactly what Conte wanted. And you know, I think that makes Chelsea a far, far better team already than it was last season where they dominated the league.
Meanwhile, continuing with Real Madrid and the theme of selling players, Danilo, Pep Guardiola, the Manchester City manager, saying he's still not done. I can't say anything about him out of respect for Real Madrid, but he is one of the options we have. Interesting, isn't it? The Brazilian fullback has only been at Real Madrid 2 years, hasn't exactly been a starting fullback.
You know why? Because he's not that good. That's why.
So why is Pep interested?
I think this smacks more of there isn't that much around in that position. Clearly, Danilo is coming in to help Kyle Walker, so that Kyle Walker's not playing every game back to back all the time, because he's not coming in to be the number one. Because he's not a number one, he's not good enough to be the starting fullback.
Let's not forget that in times of struggles for Real Madrid with injuries, with Dani Carvajal, it wasn't Danilo that stepped in and played. It was Nacho that was brought in and played as a right back. So he wasn't even second choice. As centre back, Nacho, they put him out as a right back rather than putting in Danilo. There's a reason for that. He's not very good.
So what are his attributes? What are his attributes?
I wouldn't have made the signing. So if you're asking me, I'm saying, why are they doing this?
I mean,
even more so. And sometimes we say, well, the numbers are the numbers, and let's not really pay attention as to how much money they're spending, because that's the market that we live in. But if you're Manchester City and you had Dani Alves all but wrapped up for a free transfer, and now you're spending over £70 million on Kyle Walker and Danilo, what is going on? Who's doing the mathematics here? Yeah. And whoever is doing the mathematics is failing.
Julian, why so much? And it continues a trend, doesn't it? Manchester City tend to spend a lot of money on players. You think of Stones and Mangala. Is Danilo going to be the next of those?
Yeah, I believe so, and I agree with Ali. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to me to spend pretty much 80 million euros over two right backs. We're talking right backs. And I know Pep obviously wants them to play in a certain way, which is really intense. That's why you need two very good ones, because one can't play every single game, every 3 days, etc., etc. But surely, even in their youth team, I mean, their youth teams are one of the best in Europe. Surely they have younger players who they promote to the first team squads, who they can learn from someone like, Pep Guardiola and Kyle Walker and people like that, and then get them ready for playing a few games this season and then even more next season. Why would you spend 80 million euros over two players in the same position? Is baffling me, really.
Now, Julian, with those two players potentially departing, does it make it any more likely that Kylian Mbappe could actually arrive this summer?
We haven't talked about him for a few days on the show. I was a bit sad. Yeah. So the money was never a problem, because if Real Madrid want to pay 150 million for Mbappe, they had the money anyway. The fact is now they have more money if they want to, right? Okay. But the problem is still the same. Do they really need him? And I think personally everybody needs Mbappe. There's no doubt. But if you look at it, they already have quite an amazing front three. Karim Benzema, being in the position of Mbappe, but also being Zinedine Zidane's son. They have a father and son relationship. So then after that, you have Isco, and you also have Marco Asensio, who's amazing. And if you start playing 4-4-2, you also lose a midfielder from Kroos and Modric and Casemiro, plus Llorente and Ceballos as well, and you can't play with 12 or 13 players. So maybe this is not just the right time for Real Madrid to go and sign Mbappe. And if he stays at Monaco for another year, plays the World Cup, Real Madrid will still be favourite club come next summer. So maybe it'd be better for them to wait a little bit and then spend all that money next summer on him.
But with bank coffers nicely refreshed from two essentially backup players being shipped out, it's got to increase the likelihood just a tad, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think Mbappe, if he did go to Real Madrid, who said he's going to be on the bench? I mean, Gareth Bale, I think, is a player that could be struggling over the next year or two to keep his place. It depends how they play as well, because Isco started to come in and playing behind the front two, so they only played with a front two, really, because Ronaldo went from the left-hand side to play at centre forward.
All right, so who do you sit down, Stewie? You got to sit somebody down.
Gareth Bale would be the player.
So you're taking Gareth Bale off the field to put Mbappe in?
Yeah.
Tell you what, how many teams can get rid of James Rodriguez and Morata, and nobody's even blinking an eye?
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Do you think Mbappe?
I think he comes next year. No, I don't think he comes this year. I agree with everything that Julien said. They can wait till next season. Why would they give themselves such a headache? We're sitting talking about, will Bale play? Will Asensio start? Who's going to play centre forward? Benzema, if he plays, has to be centre forward. But we know Ronaldo wants to be centre forward and is best at centre forward.
And there's also a lot of players that have had great first seasons. We think he's going to be a wonderful player, but they've had great first seasons and then fallen off on the second season, not quite fulfilled their potential. Hopefully he's not one of those players, but he could be.
from the Real Madrid exits to a Barcelona exit? Question mark. All the question marks flying about Neymar. Neymar bombs as the headline, headline in sport. Another headline from the Catalan press. He's not going. Barcelona apparently 200% convinced that Neymar is not going anywhere.
It's more than 100, right?
That is more than 100 indeed. Julien, it is a lot more than 100. What's your latest take? Is it conceivable that what many people feel is the number 3 player in the world will be playing in the French First Division next season?
I think anything is possible, and we talked a lot about Neymar in the show yesterday, and that the door reopened. Clearly, last summer, PSG really thought they had him. They really believed they had him. They thought it was done. And he played them so well that he got a new improved deal with Barcelona that he signed, and PSG felt a bit used and they said, this is never going to happen again. And here we are, 12 months later, in a similar context, similar situation. Although it seemed that things are a bit different on the Neymar side of things. Not so much on PSG, but on Neymar, that maybe there's a bit of tension between his dad and Barcelona. Maybe even Neymar is not so happy that Messi signed a new deal, that again he's going to play second fiddle. Neymar knows there's no way he can win the Ballon d'Or if he plays in the same team as Messi. That's impossible. So maybe, he thinks that's the right time for him to leave, and PSG, money is no problem. They could pay the release clause of 222 million euros. They could play his huge salary, around 25 million euros a year, probably even. So that's not a problem. Doesn't mean that it will happen, but I think PSG are going to try. I think they will meet Neymar's dad, that's for sure. They see how Barcelona will respond to this. And in the end, maybe Neymar will just sign a new deal at Barcelona and we will see the same scenario as last year again. But maybe this time it could be different as well.
Just give me a quick sense, Julien. Are you more optimistic 24 hours on the one from when we last talked to you that this deal can happen?
I am, because PSG are. That's the thing. They get more and more optimistic as the hour. I don't know what Neymar and his dad are saying to the club. I don't know what the club is saying to them. But it seems that they have that momentum going forward for them. And you know what? Marco Verratti, I wonder if they might use him in a way of making that Neymar deal happen as well.
Yeah, Verratti has changed agents as well to our old friend Mino Raiola.
Can I ask a question?
Go on then.
Who do we think the first agent is going to be a mum? Because everybody's agents are the dad. Oh, the dad's not happy. When's the mum going to get involved in all this?
Perhaps she is.
Maybe she is.
Women have most of the say-so.
It just sounds so weird.
Ali,
there's a lot of tension between the father and the dad and PSG.
Leaving the parents out of it for now. Are you more optimistic, like Julien, 24 hours on, that this could actually become a reality? It just seems astonishing. It does.
I don't think so. I think Neymar can sit back and if he thinks about this objectively, and I know the chunk of money that's being thrown out there is just crazy talk, he's not playing second fiddle just to anybody. He's playing second fiddle to perhaps the best player in the history of the game. So anybody else in the world would be playing second fiddle to Lionel Messi. And oh, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Because while Lionel Messi attracts all the attention and all the pressure and everything is on his shoulders, you're over here hanging out on the left-hand side scoring goals for fun and enjoying yourself. And you don't have the same sort of pressure that Messi does. If you're intelligent, if you're smart, why leave Barcelona, where you know you're going to be playing for titles every single year? And not just league titles, but you're playing for something else, something bigger. If you're Neymar, the big picture's got to be better than just, hey, let me just go chase the money.
This one's going to run and run, isn't it? The summer transfer season really hotting up now. You can follow it all on ESPNFC.com. And we got a treat for you when we return. Jose Mourinho in an exclusive talk with us, including his thoughts on whether United can win the league title.
Can we win it? We can, but maybe we don't.
Now then, Manchester United preparing for the forthcoming season currently in the United States, where our Mark Ogden had a chance to sit down with the United manager Jose Mourinho. He started off by asking him about the summer transfer window.
I cannot say that I'm happy with our transfer window. What I can also say is that it's a difficult transfer window. And I don't blame anyone. It's just a reality of things. But in this moment we have Lindelof and Lukaku, which are two players that I know well. One was my player, another one played in Portugal, and the Portuguese Championship is the one that I follow every weekend. So I'm happy with them. I know that they are going to succeed at the club, but we need a bit more. A long time ago, we thought about 4 players to improve our squad, and it's really hard to do it. So I would say if we do the third and forget the 4th, I would be quite happy with that, because I know that is difficult.
Do you think you can achieve your ambitions this season with the 2 you've already got, or does it have to be a 3rd and a 4th? Can you win the league this season with what you have now, or do you need more?
You know, there is one thing this season which I think is going to give a little bit more balance, which is the fact that the top 6 are all in the European competitions, not like last season where Chelsea and Liverpool, they were playing all season 1 match per week, and all the others playing in European competitions, especially us playing on the Thursdays in the Europa League. Can we win it? We can, but maybe we don't, because every team is good, is strong, and some of them are really strong on the market. So it's going to be difficult.
You've got 4 teams in the Champions League, possibly 5 if Liverpool get there. Can any of those 5 teams win the Champions League this season, or is it too difficult at the moment for the Premier League clubs because of what you encountered last season with fixtures?
You know, it's more difficult because of our calendar, because of our fixtures. That's obvious. I think everybody knows. Everybody knows that. Everybody speaks about the same. The competitiveness of our Premier League, the number of matches we play, the extra cup we have with the League Cup, 2 legs, semi-finals in the League Cup, final in the middle of the season, big semi-finals in the FA Cup, no time to rest in between matches, and the intensity of every match. Even cup matches, you play against the Championship team, you play against the League One team, a League Two team, even that is competitive. In other countries, they have the winter break, they have sometimes very easy matches where they can rest players, where they can send players on holiday, when the players they can come back after a break, and then they arrive in the crucial moment of the Champions League stronger than anyone. That happens with the German teams, with the Spanish teams, with the French teams, not with the English teams.
So that's it, it's solved. That's why English teams can't win the Champions League, Ali. The League Cup is the reason.
And I'll take it to that point in particular. He has made it a campaign to say that they won 2.5 trophies last season. One of those trophies was the League Cup. So he has bragged about winning the League Cup. And now, when it doesn't suit you, when it serves as an excuse, you use it to complain about the very tournament that you bragged about. It's Captain Deflecto, once again by Jose Mourinho, and he's a genius about this. He's the sort of guy that turns on the light, and all of a sudden, all the bucks go directed to the light, and they just follow the light, and nobody asks the right questions. Nobody digs into the team. Nobody digs into the idea that, look, you spend a chunk of money, and yet this team finished 6th in the Premier League. That is a real question. That is a real issue. Not all these other things that he's trying to have you talk about.
Do you think he's right to set the bar low? I mean, this is Manchester United.
No, he spent a lot of money. When he took over last year, I expected him to do a lot better than he did last year, even though he won 2.5 trophies, as Ali just said. He's got to do a lot better this season. They've got to play better football, they've got to win more matches, and they've got to do better in all the competitions. Simple as that.
Stevie?
Has the season started yet?
No.
Oh, it's not. I thought it started.
Oh.
He's already crying.
Yeah.
He's crying. I'm almost in tears here listening to him. The season's not even started
I've got
yet.
a hanky for you if you want in your pocket.
How's about looking forward to the new season and this and that?
Yeah, I look at this interview, and I'm slouching on the chair like, oh.
You're already giving the players the excuses, aren't you?
That was just a snippet of the interview. Why don't you see the full thing at ESPN FC.com. Go on, I know you'll be there, Stevie, to have a look. Mark Ogden talking to Jose Mourinho. Well, I tell you what, we got Stuart Robson here this week, and we haven't yet had an Arsenal State of the Union address, have we?
Been saving it.
What do you make of their summer so far? Just 2 signings of real note.
Kolasinac will probably play on the left-hand side of a back three. I think that's why he's been bought. He's an OK player. I think he's not going to pull up any trees, but that's the position he's going to play, and that's why they bought him. Lacazette, I've seen him on many occasions. I'm not convinced he's got the consistency or the work rates or the hard graft to be a top-class player. You know, I went to see him on a couple of occasions for another manager, and I came back with a report that he wasn't quite good enough to play at the top level.
So were you surprised?
I was surprised that they bought him rather than Aubameyang or went for Morata or somebody like that they went for Lacazette. French obviously knows Giroud, and they could play together up front. But everything revolves around what Alexis Sanchez is going to do, or what they do with Alexis Sanchez. Yeah. Whether they sell him to another Premier League side, whether he goes abroad. But he holds the key, because if he plays, Giroud will have to go somewhere else, because Sanchez and Giroud can't play alongside Lacazette. So that's the key. What happens to Alexis Sanchez? And then you can judge where Arsenal are going to be come the season.
Let's bring Julien Laurens into the conversation. Julien, what do you make of Stuart's assessment, in particular on Lacazette?
Yeah, I agree with Stu on the Alexis Sanchez situation and the context. For Lacazette, I think let's give him a chance, at least. I agree with what Stu said, and him and I have talked about Lacazette a lot, you know, in the past few seasons. I was sceptical for a long time of Lacazette. Last season, though, he won me over. I have to say, I was there when Lyon went away to Monaco in the league and beat Monaco 3-1. The Monaco who ended up being champions, who beat Manchester City, who beat Spurs twice in the Champions League. And Lacazette was outstanding. 1 goal, 1 assist in that game. He was fantastic. He was fantastic against Roma in the Europa League. He was great against PSG in the league. So I can also tell you the games where he was very good. And I get the consistency aspect, but I also think that at Lyon he was in his comfort zone. He was untouchable. No one could tell him anything. I like the fact that he decided to move away from that, away from his hometown, away from the club that he's always played, you know, from the academy to the first team, to challenge himself. He went away to challenge himself for something tougher, something bigger. And I really hope for him he succeeds, not just because he's French, but because I think he has worked hard enough to get that chance, and I hope for him he takes it now. It's
a big if, but if they keep Alexis Sanchez, what's the ceiling for Arsenal as they currently constructed?
They're not going to win the title, I don't think. They're not going to win they certainly won't win the Champions League because they're not even in it.
It's hard. That is hard.
They could get into the top 4 if they kept Alexis Sanchez. If they don't keep Alexis Sanchez, I think they're going to struggle to stay in the top 4. They've still got problems defensively. You know, whether they changed to a back 3 last season, it worked quite well towards the end of the season. You can go and buy the best players. They still don't do enough work defensively. They don't know what their jobs are defensively in the front area.
Say it.
The coach needs to do a lot more work on the defensive side of the game. And until you do that, until you've got a structure of play, you're always going to struggle in certain games.
The fear for Arsenal fans everywhere is if Sanchez does go, that it's to an English team, a City or a Chelsea.
Listen, they can't sell him to City. They can't. I mean, surely they've learned after the debacle with Man United and Robin van Persie. Surely, but you know, Stewie's always saying Arsenal's about money. It's run as a business, and if that's how they actually do things, then I guess they'll commit another cardinal sin and sell him to City.
And yet it feels that all of this just kind of goes around the same subject matter, which is Arsene Wenger. Continues to be there. He is the decision maker. And it feels that until that changes, not much is going to change at Arsenal, regardless of whether Alexis Sanchez is there or not.
Cutting to the heart of the matter there.
Well, I think that's what Stewie was intimating. But
we will switch the focus from Arsenal to Spurs. They'll be the centre of our focus for a 1-hour special edition on tomorrow's show at ESPN FC. We'll be at the Disney Wide World of Sports, where Tottenham are in pre-season training.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Now, it's been a busy summer already for City boss Pep Guardiola, but is he eyeing up another new signing? Look who's standing next to Sergio Aguero, though. That's the other type of football. That's J.J. Watt from the Houston Texans.
I tell you what, they're both standing there going, who's this guy standing next to me?
I know, I'd win in a fight.
What?
Could they not find a bigger shirt for J.J. Watt to wear there? I know
you would think that would be in the budget of Manchester City, that they could make a jersey that is properly suited for J.J. Watt. And by the way, he could play defense for Manchester City. Yeah. I'm just saying, J.J. Watt, if you don't know, the guy dominates offensively for Houston Texans.
He's got the attributes that they already have.
Yeah.
Can't move, can't get around.
Could Aguero play running back for the Houston Texans?
I think he could do, yeah. He could
have the size. Nippy and zippy.
Nippy and zippy. All right.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, yes, it's ESPN FC debate time. And, I think we're going to get 3 different answers this time. We don't always do that on the ESPN FC debate. But, intriguing question. We'll bring Julien Laurens into this picture too. Going to ask you, of all the new arrivals in terms of centre-forwards in the English Premier League, which of them is going to score the most goals? Will it be Lacazette for Arsenal, Lukaku for Manchester United, or Morata for Chelsea? Stuart, you look ready to dive in first with the first answer.
I'm going to go with Lukaku. I think he's the out-and-out striker. He's going to be the out-and-out striker. I'm not sure Morata's a player that's going to run in behind that often. I think he's going to be a link-up player for Chelsea. And I'm not sure Lacazette, having seen him play many, many times for Lyon, I'm not sure he's a top-quality player. So I'm going to go for Lukaku.
Right, I'm keeping track of these answers because we're going to get all 3. I know. Lukaku, why?
I am surprised that Stewie didn't go for Morata because he'll be the first one to remind you that he's a big fan of Morata when he was at Juventus and Antonio Conte, who you love, by the way.
Oh, I love both of them. But I still don't think he'll score more goals than Lukaku.
Going for Morata? Am I sensing a Morata vote here?
No, and the only reason I don't go for Morata is not because of Morata, it's because of the absence of Eden Hazard, who's out with an injury for a long period of time. That takes away from the creativity of Chelsea in the final third. That takes away from opportunities potentially for Alvaro Morata. I think Lukaku will score the most
2
goals.
for Lukaku.
Or Lukaku.
Yeah. Throw another name in the mix, Stevie.
This isn't going to happen, is it?
I'm going to have to go with Morata.
Oh, okay. One for Morata.
It does depend a lot on how long Hazard's out. If Hazard was going from the start, then it would be an easy decision for me.
Right.
The fact that he's not going to be there, I think will make it a lot tighter. But I'm going to go for Morata. He's going to get chances, and this kid can score goals.
I've got one more chance to get all 3 names as an answer. Julien, hopes lying with you. You've got to give me Lacazette, haven't you?
Of course, I give you Lacazette. I mean, I think he's perfect for Arsenal. He suits perfectly the way they're playing. I think he's very hungry. He wants to have a big impact. In the Premier League, it's a dream move for him. Not just Arsenal, but coming to England as well, which is the league that he identified himself the most to. And I think he's got everything to be successful. I get the boys' point about Morata and Lukaku has the experience of the Premier League that Morata and Lacazette don't have. But I have to go for Lacazette.
Excellent. I think Harry Kane's going to score more than all of them, by the way. Just to add that in as an addendum.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
that wasn't part of the debate, though, was it?
Just
Lukaku!
Some free-forming on the debate. So there you have it. Different answers. Told you. We have a special elongated version of Extra Time today. The questions have been rolling in. They fill this whole paper.
Oh, beautiful.
That's not always the case, I can tell you that. Andre Moreno.
What?
Controversy. You can't say that.
Stuart Robson. Well, they're not always the full page, but they are today. Stevie Nichols, please.
Bit interesting,
that doesn't make the questions any better.
We got you. Well, I'm not saying anything about quality. I'm saying quantity.
Oh, okay.
There's a phrase in there somewhere. We better get going, haven't we? We'll be here all night. Thomas says, did Chelsea and Manchester United each end up with the other's desired target in terms of strikers? Seems like they were going...
No, I don't think so. I think Morata's the right one for Chelsea. I think Conte wanted Morata.
But they were looking the other way first, weren't they?
I'm not sure.
I think
Morata's the sort of player that Conte would want, and Lukaku is the sort of player that Jose Mourinho would want.
That's exactly what the question.
So
So they went with each other's targets in the end?
Yeah, they went with each other. No, they went with their own targets.
Are you confused?
No, they went with their own target. They got their own targets.
Let's get some clarity from Julien Laurens. Did Chelsea and Manchester United end up with the opposite strikers to the one they first started out?
That's not a question.
Yes, it is.
Well, Jose wanted Griezmann first. This didn't happen. The second choice was definitely Morata. They just couldn't agree a deal with Real Madrid to sign Morata. And then they signed Lukaku. When Chelsea clearly wanted Lukaku, took too long. Manchester United came in, and now they've signed Morata. So I think they probably were all on the short list at some point anyway, so it's the same.
So really, we should just have said yes and moved on to the next question.
No, the answer was no. My answer was no.
I'm still confused.
Let it go. Let it go, Stewie.
Well,
Let it
as
go.
part of this, a follow-up question: Have relations between Real Madrid and Manchester United deteriorated to a new low?
Hold on a second. If somebody on either side is to offer silly money for any of either side's players, I think that relationship might very quickly be okay.
United,
at the door.
United apparently made exactly the same offer for Morata to Real Madrid. They were brushed aside. Chelsea make the same offer and they get it.
Well, they just don't like Jose Mourinho, do
well,
they?
that's
a bit like Stevie
that's
Nicol.
the point of the question. And has that relationship deteriorated?
Well, it's also later in the transfer window. It's also now we're getting into an area where perhaps, okay, hold on a second, we were holding out. Maybe we're running out of time if we want to get something for this player. Maybe we can negotiate and find a middle ground, and I think that's what they have done.
Julian, anything to this, given the recent, David De Gea situations? You can throw Ronaldo into that mix if you want as well.
Yeah, and I think, they're the two most powerful clubs in the world, clearly the two richest clubs in the world as well. And, why would they get on? Why would they not get on as well? I think it's tricky. It depends a lot, like Ali just said, on the timing of the offers, the kind of offers. I think the relationship with Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid is obviously an issue, has been since he left the club. So, I can see maybe why they were more willing to do business with Chelsea, let's say, than with Mourinho and United.
Right, let's move on to Chelsea. How far can they go next year? Morata, Hazard, Pedro, Bakayoko, Kante. Can they win the Champions League next season with that sort of lineup?
It all depends how long Hazard is out for, because he's a key player. He's going to do most of the creativity with his running with the ball. I think they're going to be a good side. I'm not sure they're going to win the Premier League next year. But
what about Champions League? Let's stick to the question.
Champions League. I still don't think they'll win the Champions League. No.
Stevie?
Short answer: no.
I don't think they'll win the Champions League, but if they go any distance in the Champions League, it'll depend how he figures out who plays in the Premier League, leading up to Champions League.
Juggling his resources.
I mean, you look at the starting 11, it's strong, but after the starting 11, is it really that good?
All right.
I'm not so sure.
To be continued, to be seen. Julian, more likely transfer to happen: Mendy to Manchester City or Neymar to Arsenal?
Wow, that's a tough one. Neither, I would say, because they want to keep Kylian Mbappe happy, which is the big thing at Monaco at the moment. Is if you keep his two best friends in Neymar and Mendy, then he will very, very likely stay. If you sell them both, then he might think, hang on a minute, I'm the only one left in this golden generation that did so well last season. Why would I stay as well? I think they will try to keep them. If I had to say something, I would say Mendy to City is probably more likely than Neymar to Arsenal.
I get what Julian's saying, and you kind of get what Monaco are doing. But if I'm Mendy or Neymar, I'm actually saying, well, hold on a second. How come Silva can go? How come Bakayoko can go? Fabinho may be gone. How come we've got to stay? That's what I would be thinking, right?
That's all right. You'll be okay.
They'll be okay. They're getting their money doubled. They're getting a nice little cushion in the bank.
They might be getting a lot more at Monaco. They might get an extra big contract.
Well, why wouldn't the rest of them stay there then?
Perhaps they didn't want those as much as they want these ones. Neymar and Mendy.
Honestly.
What's that got to do with what I've said? It's nothing to do with what I just said.
We move on. We must move on because the really crucial question is the last one. And it seems to be addressed just to Ali as well for some reason. Who does Ali prefer more as the host of the show? Sebastian or Dan? Sebastian or Dan are the only two options you have.
You just been pushed to the side.
I didn't ask the question.
Okay, this is the easiest question that they had put forward in extra time, or any time for that matter. It is 100% Dan Thomas, because he knows his job. See, he asks questions, we answer. He knows his role. Sebastian Salazar thinks he has an opinion.
Controversial.
We got to draw the line somewhere. We got to draw the line somewhere. The producers want, so I will.
That is a sizzling hot take. I don't know if you can answer that, you guys. But
I don't like Dan, so I think Sebastian. I prefer him. I just don't like Dan.
You don't like Dan?
I just don't like him. Not about his presenting skills. I just don't like him.
Forget Mayweather.
Yeah.
Forget him. What's the other guy called? What's his name again?
Pacquiao.
McGregor. Sorry. Forget
I'm
him.
living in the past.
How about Salazar and Moreno?
There's only one winner. Only one winner.
Would sell the auditorium out, didn't they?
That's, by the way, that's two different weight classes right there.
Boxing or wrestling? Or a bit of both?
Ooh, tell you what.
No, look. I was asked a question.
Yeah.
I answered the question. See, you asked me and I answered. Sebastian fails at doing it.
Okay, there you have it. There you have it. Dan will be hosting tomorrow, by the way. We'll be hosting from a very different venue, from Disney's Wide World of Sports, a full 1 hour edition, putting Mr. Thomas through his paces there in the Florida heat. From the Spurs training camp. And
say something else.
Things to say.
Are you done?
I had something else.
6 o'clock East.
Go on, keep going.
Streaming live.
And timing.
And now for some bonus content. Mark Ogden's interview with Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho in full.
Jose, on Sunday, it was a year to the day since you first came in charge of United, which was a game at Wigan. A year on, you've let 8 players go, brought 6 players in. So how close do you feel that this team is now where you want it to be and for the next season?
We always want more. We always feel that there is room to improve. And I cannot say that I'm happy with our transfer window. What I can also say is that it's a difficult transfer window. And I don't blame anyone. It's just a reality of things. And the market is going into such a direction where many players are very difficult to get, not to say impossible. Every club is economically powerful and they don't want to sell, or their demands are really high. So the market is difficult. But in this moment we have Lindelof and Lukaku, which are 2 players that I know well. One was my player, another one played in Portugal, and the Portuguese Championship is the one that I follow every weekend. So I'm happy with them. I know that they're going to succeed at the club, but we need a bit more.
Do you think the situation might change? I mean, it's mid-July, maybe August.
Yeah, the market ends 31st of August, so plenty of time. But obviously, the objective for me as a manager is always to have the players as soon as possible and try to coach them in the team and develop the team with them. So Lukaku and Lindelof to start from day one with us is very good.
Because obviously last season Pogba arrived middle of August, so you wanted to avoid that this time, I guess, and you wanted ideally to have them all in.
Yeah, but every club does that, and there is nothing we can do unless one day the rules change and the market closes before the official competition starts, because in reality it can happen now and happens a few times. A player plays for 2 clubs, can play for a club in 14, 15 of August, even on the weekends 23, 24, and then in the first week of September is playing against his previous club. That can perfectly happen, but obviously for a manager is not what we want.
I think a lot of people expected the Lukaku deal to maybe open it all up, maybe to start clubs buying, maybe start a domino effect. It's not really happened. I mean, is the transfer market just changed now whereby big moves don't automatically mean other big moves elsewhere?
Can you explain me?
Well, if one big move happens, the club that gets the money spends on somebody else, and then somebody else spends, and it kind of sparks alive the transfer market.
I don't know, because for example Everton, they started really strong in the market without Lukaku money. AC Milan, without selling players, they are buying non-stop. So depends on the moment, depends on the objective, on the philosophy. Sometimes new owners. So it's difficult to say. What I say is that long time ago we thought about 4 players to improve our squad, and it's really hard to do it. So I would say if we do the third and forget the 4th, I would be quite happy with that, because I know that is difficult.
Do you think you can achieve your ambitions this season with the 2 you've already got, or does it have to be a 3rd and a 4th? Can you win the league this season with what you have now, or do you need more?
You know, there is one thing this season which I think is going to give a little bit more balance, which is the fact that the top 6 are all in the European competitions, not like last season where Chelsea and Liverpool, they were playing all season 1 match per week, and all the others playing in European competitions, especially us playing on the Thursdays in the Europa League. Next season, all 6, and also Everton, are going to play European competitions, and that is going to create a new situation for Chelsea, for Liverpool, and is going to give, I think, more balance. Can we win it? We can, but maybe we don't, because, as I was saying, every team is good, is strong, and some of them are really strong on the market. So it's going to be difficult.
Was that the key for Chelsea in the league last season, that the absence of European football, that they got a great strong start, a lot of relaxation time?
I don't want to say key, because if I say key, I would take credit from the credit that they deserve. But obviously, to play 1 match per week and to have always 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 days off in a week, and no injuries and no accumulation. The same for Liverpool. I think obviously it helps. Now they are going to face a different situation, but with the squad they have and with the players they are getting, I think they will cope with it.
Conte's just signed a new contract today. Wenger signed one a couple of weeks ago. It's the same faces again this season. It's the same challenges. It's you, it's Conte, Wenger, Guardiola, Klopp. There's no change this year in terms of the Pochettino.
Yeah, but where are going these clubs to get better managers than us? I think is not easy, with respect for others, and obviously there are other managers with quality, but where can you get more experience, curriculum, know-how, how the clubs are going to get better than us? So I think it's normal that we all stay, and I think it's important, especially for the stability of the teams. I think it's important that managers stay more than a season.
When we used to do these tours under Sir Alex Ferguson, he always felt like the guy that everybody was trying to emulate. You know, the younger coaches, and you, maybe 10 years ago, you were the guy that was knocking on the door and challenging Sir Alex. You look around now and you're one of the older guys and the younger guys are knocking on your door. Do you still feel like you're the guy that people look up to as the guy that they have to catch? 2 Champions Leagues, 2 Europa Leagues, league titles in 4 countries. Your record still stands out above the rest.
You know,
are you the Sir Alex figure nowadays that he used to be?
You know, I think Sir Alex's career is unique, because, and I don't think it's possible to emulate. Nobody is going to be in the same club for so many years. Nobody is going to be in the same league for the same number of years. I think Wenger will be the last with, a similar story in terms of staying in the club for so many years. What I tried to do in modern football nowadays is to try to deserve to stay in the club, because in these moments, this is about success. You have success, you stay in the club. You don't stay, and sometimes you have huge success in 1 year, and the next year you don't have, and you are out. Happened to me in Chelsea, happened to Ranieri with Leicester, will happen to many others. Nowadays, people look much more on the short term.
Does this club maybe feel different in the sense that they've had two very much short-term managers after a really long-serving manager? This club needs stability. This club needs a guy to be around for 3-4 years, maybe not 20 years, but 5 years.
I'm ready for next 15, I would say.
What, here?
Yeah, why not? But I have to admit that it's very difficult, because the pressure around our jobs and everybody putting really pressure on managers and teams, that people say they have to win, but in reality only one can win every year is getting more difficult. But what I try to do in the club is that my work goes further than the football results, go to areas that sometimes people don't think at them as a manager's job, and in my vision, my job is much more than what I do on the pitch and then the football results that my team gets on the weekend.
It's interesting you say that, because do you feel this club is different to some, that it is more future look in terms of not the here and now, it's about the long term? Some clubs are a bit more knee-jerk, but United have a way to deal with things on a long-term basis. It's a much more comfortable club in dealing with 3 or 4 year cycles, 5 year cycles.
This club was for so many years with Sir Alex, and people got used to it, and people understood the great consequences of that stability. So after David and Mr. Van Gaal, I come to my second year. Hopefully I can stay and give that stability that the club wants. So I will try, but again, I always think that we have to try to deserve that. And that's what I try every day, the way I work.
Your second season generally is very successful wherever you've been. You've always had good success second season. Maybe the first season at Chelsea, when you went back, it was preparation for the second season. Do you feel that after your first season at United, you can again have a very successful second season at United, that your imprint is now on the club enough for you to do that?
Normally the second season should be better than the first, because you know the club, you know the players they know you, the club know you, can affect in a positive way the structure, you can affect in a positive way the people that works around you. So normally the second season should be better than the first, but again, this is modern football. The reality is totally different, So when I see the way other clubs invest, when I see the way other clubs keep their best players, when I see the way other clubs refuse to sell their best players, when I see this economical power to do it, it's getting much harder. It's getting much harder for everyone, so we don't know.
Just looking at the game on Thursday, the City game, do you see that as the real start to your pre-season? You've had 2 games against MLS teams, but is this a step up now for you guys?
No, for me it's just the same. Against better players, against a better team. But the way I look to it is the same way I look to the other matches. I will still train before the match and train hard. I will still play 22 players, not 11. I will still try to play well and to do things that we train much more important than the result. For me, it will be the same, but I know that is Manchester City and is a City rival, and probably people will look at it with different eyes, and if we win, they make a big story. If we lose, they make a bigger story. I know that, but I'm training.
Do you feel the story's changed a bit from last season? Because this time last year, we were all talking about Jose versus Pep, it was all about U2, and it didn't turn out that way in the league. Do you think now that this season it's changed and the focus is not on U2 as much?
No, I think the way we behaved, both, I think make it also go in that direction. Many people would think wrong that we had a personal situation, which we always told no, was just the consequence of being in Barcelona and Real Madrid in a specific period of their history. Barcelona was in the top, Real Madrid was in a low and trying to come up and break that Barcelona dominancy. But we worked together, we were colleagues for 3 years. We lived in the same stadium and the same dressing room for 3 years. We were good friends, and we show that last season that we could perfectly show the football world that our relation is positive. Are we rivals? Yes. We want to win the same titles? Yes. But with the respect that we could show last season.
But that intensity that you showed in Spain, is that an inevitable side effect of two big managers going for big?
You know, but in Spain is two clubs fighting against each other. Okay, now Atletico Madrid is also close, but in our time was just about us, and for 3 years was just about us. Champions League matches, La Liga titles, La Liga, Copa del Rey finals, Super Cup finals. Everything was about Real and Barcelona, and we were in a situation of, not easy. And in England, I knew before it happens, I knew that would be completely different, because it's a completely different league.
You play both of them. You play Real Madrid on Sunday and Barca next week. I mean, they're still the two top teams that dominate the Champions League.
Yeah, but training, I know. I'm sorry, really, Vent. I'm sorry, still eternal, that these are my words, but we want to give a good show, we want to give good matches, but we are training, and I cannot change that mentality. I want to compete against Real Madrid in the Super Cup. I want to compete against Barcelona if we find them in the Champions League. I want to fight against Man City in the Premier League, not here. In here we want to train, again, training against best players and great teams. That's what in this moment we want. After two good sessions and two good experience against the two MLS teams.
You've got 4 teams in the Champions League, possibly 5 if Liverpool get there. Can any of those 5 teams win the Champions League this season, or is it too difficult at the moment for the Premier League clubs because of what you encountered last season with fixtures?
It's more difficult because of our calendar, because of our fixtures. That's obvious. I think everybody knows. Everybody knows that. Everybody speaks about the same. The competitiveness of our Premier League, the number of matches we play, the extra cup we have with the League Cup, 2 legs, semi-finals in the League Cup, final in the middle of the season, big semi-finals in the FA Cup, no time to rest in between matches. Maybe respect is not the word, but the fixtures, it looks like they are not done thinking about protecting the teams and the intensity of every match. Even cup matches, you play against a championship team, you play against a League One team, a League Two team, even that is competitive. In other countries, they have the winter break, they have sometimes very easy matches where they can rest players, where they can send players on holiday, when the players they can come back after a break, and then they arrive in the crucial moment of the Champions League stronger than anyone. That happens with the German teams, with the Spanish teams, with the French teams, not with the English teams.
Is an example of what you're saying about rest and recuperation. Marcus Rashford, he's had a summer off. He looks stronger. You mentioned the other night he's grown 3 centimetres in the last 12 months. Missing the European Under-21 Championships, do you think you and England will benefit from that this season?
Would be too much for him. would be too much for him. And I think the results of the youth football, English youth football in these European and World Cup tournaments show that other kids are good and other kids deserve opportunity. No need for a player like Marcos after Europa League Cup final and after playing for the first national team. He wouldn't need that. He need the rest. Players need the rest, and for a young player even more.
This last question: are you enjoying this more than last summer, in terms of the facilities and the weather?
I do. I always did. I was one of the first to come to the US in 2004, and since then I always try to come. But sometimes it's impossible. There are some other commercial stuff that we cannot forget, and sometimes the clubs, they need to go to Asia, which we did last season, and last season was really a bad experience, but now everybody is happy. The conditions are great, and everything is going really well, so let's see if we can repeat next season.